Okay, we are on day 2,154 days, I believe. Let me make sure I just posted it. Mm. Oh, yeah. 2,154 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room there on Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas, the epicenter of really what President Trump is looking at, really, his focus. Um, there's no doubt in my mind, because they forcibly removed a U.S. Army soldier, our son, from his barracks room and took him downstairs to the basement room, which was the arms room, and they took his life because he was a whistleblower. He was a whistleblower for this cartel cabal, this cartel conglomerate, this cartel, El Paso cartel network, whatever you want to call it. It is absolutely a terroristic organization. I guess what President Trump has designated it, the Sinaloa cartel, with the CJNG cartel, with the Trinidad cartel, Juarez cartel. Well, I don't think the Juarez cartel is designated as a terrorist organization, even though I believe it should be. It absolutely should be. But the Sinaloa is, and what they did to Richard was absolutely an act of war. And you know it is because they are not leaking it, are they? They're not leaking it. And this is absolutely the center, the epicenter, the El Paso Intelligence Center that um, failed, the justice system that has been infiltrated, the the military infiltrated, and making deals, treasonous treaties with Sinaloa proxies, the El Chapo fentanyl governor of Chihuahua, Mexico, Maru Campos, to share even more data, to share intelligence files, to share even personnel. Let's bring over the CIA and the DEA and the ATF. They can work in Chihuahua. They can work in my high rise on the 18th floor. And it is powered with AI and the Pegasus software. The Israeli, look, it's Israeli. It's okay. Pegasus software pointed right at Fort Bliss and Mexico, right? And Mexico. And we can just break everybody's passwords, collect all their information on their phones, bank accounts to pictures to even tap into live phone calls. And then we are going to use our new AI tower to memorize it, organize it, analyze it, and weaponize it. And we are going to be the boss. Wrong, wrong. Now they're getting caught. For what they've done. It's absolutely treason. Absolutely treason. And how did they weaponize it? Well, they weaponized it against Richard. They weaponized it against President Trump. They absolutely weaponized it with the Walmart mass shooting. And, they absolutely were trying to sabotage the election. They were absolutely trying to push Beto O'Rourke into the White House, absolutely. But he's so bad, that it could never work. It could never work because Americans see right through it. But Americans don't know the infiltration, the level of infiltration. And so we have some major um, some real major developments today. Again, thank you, Anicia, for coming on. Thank you. So late, too. I mean, it's almost 1 o'clock in the morning. But we have some major developments again. And, it's just every day. everyday new, very important revelations, right? And I'll start off with George Smith. George Smith works with the um, State Bar of Texas, okay, with Sylvia Brune de Firth. We already know that Sylvia Brune de Firth, even though she went over to the Commission on Judicial Conduct, so you have one person on the Commission on Judicial Conduct. So if you have what does this mean? What am I trying to say? Because I'm doing this all by heart, right? I'm doing this all by heart. I didn't even really prepare any notes at all tonight. So, if you have a dirty judge like Judge Sam Madrano, who was the Walmart mass shooting judge, if you have a dirty judge, and of course, in our country, you can file a complaint about him to notify the Commission on Judicial Conduct that a judge has breached um, ethics, okay, that they have breached ethics, that they are not abiding by their oath and by their, well, which is their duty, right? If you have someone on the Commission on Judicial Conduct like Sylvia Brune de Firth, that is a cartel operative, and I don't know how else to explain them because they are part of the terroristic organization. So if they're part of the terroristic organization, then they are a cartel operative, you know. And so if you see one of your fellow cartel operatives, um, judges that there's a complaint against him, well, then you just say, oh, didn't find anything here, and you throw it back and you cover for him. And that's exactly what has been happening. And we know it because we've been experiencing it. Well, in the Texas State Bar, they've got George Smith. And our complaint there, especially Justin Underwood, who absolutely tampered with evidence and tried to obstruct justice in our son's case. Um, we had hard evidence, very, very hard evidence of his breach of ethics, breach of the state bar um, requirements. If you have a dirty lawyer, they can do so much harm, can't they? They can. So, of course, if you put in a complaint and you know that it is with hard evidence and absolutely meritorious on its claims, then if it comes back and they say, oh, nothing to see here, then you're like, wait a minute. You didn't even ask us. You didn't even interview us. You didn't even want to see our evidence or review the evidence we sent. What's going on here? Something is very fishy here. And in both cases, that's exactly what happened. Not even a review of the information, not even an interview of those that are making the complaint. So, why do we even have a state bar? And why do we even have a commission on judicial conduct? If they're going to allow cartel operatives to infiltrate, to allow dirty judges and dirty lawyers to commit the most heinous crimes, because look, the Walmart mass shooting was a heinous crime. The taking of our son's life was a heinous crime. The covering it up is a heinous crime. So why is our taxpayer money going to these institutions if they are just going to allow cartel operatives to cover for criminals. And so we were wondering, of course, in the Commission on Judicial Conduct, and we already have, notified the public about it and the authorities about it, that it was Sylvia Brundeferth that was covering for Sam Madrano and other judges that were up to no good. Now, that should have a huge penalty because that is such a position of trust and national security, right? National interest. It's importance of national importance because it's our justice system. And then you have George Smith in the State Bar of Texas doing the same garbage. And that's why we have the problems that we do, because our oversight that we pay a lot of money and taxpayers' money, it has been infiltrated by cartel operatives to allow the cartel to traffic. That means it's even more heinous than what I even said earlier, because you have 500,000 children that were trafficked. You have people dying of fentanyl. You have very vicious and violent crimes because of the weapons trafficking. And it goes on and on into the economic theft that they're allowing all of the trafficking. Like the tunnels underneath the El Paso ISD schools. And then you have to pay, uh, cartel operatives as El Paso ISD police officers to protect these trafficking tunnels underneath the schools, putting the taxpayer in major debt. What is it, over $50 million shortfall? So not only do you have the major crimes, then you have the major financial crimes. That really puts a lot of pressure on families, more so than even um, yeah, all the little things that these politicians talk about, but they don't go to the meat where the cartel corruption is that does so much harm. And then, how did we find out that George Smith was dirty? Well, besides that he, has close ties to Underwood, and they share a like faith. This is a Mormon faction. Because Leilani Hart, who should have been arrested, that needs to be arrested, that will be arrested. I really have faith that she will be arrested, but she needs to be arrested. She should have been arrested already. There's no reason not to arrest her. Her crimes are just that big and documented. Documented. And that's why we can say arrest Leilani Hart. And here she has this intimate personal relationship with George Smith, saying that, our Mormon little group, he'll cover for us. We can just, what can you just do? Facilitate child sexual exploitation like you confessed to in your affidavit? Is that what he's going to cover for? Oh, being involved in the orchestration of the Walmart mass shooting? Is that what he's going to cover for? Oh, in the taking of a U.S. Army Fort Bliss whistleblower soldier, Richard Halliday, taking his life. Is that what George Smith is going to help you cover up? Is that what Sylvia Brune de Firth is going to help you cover up? Yeah. Okay. That's one thing that happened today. Can you believe it? There's more. Of course, I cannot stress enough how this is also all facilitated, enabled by Maru Campos. When people are calling out treason to the homeland against Maru Campos, they are 100% correct. 100% correct. It's so bad that they're all like, gosh, is she CIA? Because that's how she's working against Mexico in alliance with Justin Underwood, George Smith, Leilani Hart, Alejandro de la Vega Foster, Paul Foster, Woody Hunt, the the whole like El Paso cartel, Sinaloa, uh, CJNG, Tren de Aragua coalition that want to run that whole area of the borderland according to their pocketbook, according to their personal gain. And they don't care about the people they hurt. They don't care about breaching national security. They don't care about all the children being trafficked because it helps their pocketbook. They are monsters and they are traitors because they're violating Mexican sovereignty and the United States sovereignty. They're violating the Mexican Constitution and they're violating the United States and the Texas Constitution. And Maru Campos is absolutely tied directly to the Sinaloa cartel and taking our son's life. And taking our son's life, the way it all happened. Look, they sent Ray Velarde to be Richard's lawyer shortly, very shortly, days before they took his life. Why? He is the attorney for El Mayo, for, millionaires and billionaires. Because it was counterintelligence, because Richard was reporting on the very people he was trying to defend, the Sinaloa cartel. So you got the Sinaloa cartel lawyer that Richard didn't know that is coming in wanting to know what Richard is reporting about the Sinaloa cartel infiltration on Fort Bliss and the involvement in the Walmart mass shooting. Um, Robert, you need to leave because this is hard evidence. Hard evidence. I didn't make up Ray Velarde's signature on Richard's paperwork. I didn't make up that he is El Mayo's lawyer, the Sinaloa cartel kingpin, founder, co-founder of the Sinaloa cartel. I didn't make that up. It doesn't come from the pain of my loved one. It comes from justice. Justice. Don't you understand? Because if we don't have justice, then you have no peace, you have no country. And when you have the in the line of duty, when you have let's talk about, and I know why you're on here, because of David Frost. And I didn't make up David Frost. I didn't make up David Frost. I didn't make up his divorce. I didn't make up the allegations by his wife that I had to go through and read through that very evil, vile, vulgar information that I'm not even sharing most of it because it would make your skin crawl. So I know that's why you're on. So let's get into it then. I mean, I wanted to talk about how El Mayo's son now, how El Mayo's son was raided, right? Was raided. I don't think he was arrested. I didn't read anything that he was arrested, just that all of his property in Durango, maybe not all of his property, but a lot of it, including 3 properties, 46 vehicles. That includes tractor trailers and ATVs and pickup trucks, and then 4,626 firearms, 12,932 kilos of methamphetamines, which I think his dad would be very upset about that. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know. Let's go ask El Mayo. 199 kilos of fentanyl. 2,293,430 fentanyl pills. 3,010 vehicles. 3,010 vehicles. 9 aircraft. And over 37 million pesos, which is close to $1 million. Yeah. This is who was interested in what Richard was saying, what our son was saying about the Sinaloa cartel. He was reporting. That was no accident that Ray Velarde marched in to that room where Richard was. And then, shortly after that, his life is taken. Yeah. So it's, the evidence is piling up and piling up. And so let's talk about, explain Mayela, explain Nadal Tassin Bayim. Explain that. Explain them having being in and having all the connections to the DA's office, to the FBI's office, to Walmart cybersecurity, to the cartel. I mean, I didn't make up that they're related to Willie Moya, Altero Alba, the very DPS ranger that was assigned to our case, Gustavo Sanchez. I didn't make that up. This is all recorded. Thousands of documents, and I'm not joking. All recordings and pictures and all of that. It's all documented. And I like the hat that I'm wearing. Thank you. And it's it's just so magnificent. It's just magnificent because it stands for justice and not cover up, not covering up for these predators while planning, colluding, conspiring together to murder a U.S. Army soldier that is courageous and worthy of all respect and honor from the American people. This is the letter that's right behind me. I should read it word for word. I really should. Absolutely confirms that Richard was killed in the line of duty for his actions protecting this nation. But you cannot, and I'm going to put it up here, you cannot cover this up. You cannot cover this up. You see, yeah, because meet David Scott Frost. You can't cover that up. He's a real person. And that real person was the lead FBI agent for the Walmart mass shooting with Todd Petkus. How do I know that? Because of hard evidence. Now, what do I know about the Walmart mass shooting? It was orchestrated, it was staged, it was botched. It was framed to become a weaponized narrative against President Trump to sabotage the 2020 re-election in order to push gun control and Beto O'Rourke forward. And the investigation with it, because everything I'm telling you is not my opinion. It's because of hard evidence of videos, blood trails, paperwork, birth certificates, open records, 6 years of hard work day in and day out, proof with Patrick Crusius, proof of his family. I did not tell the Alexis Mayella to marry Brian Crusius, okay? I didn't tell her to do that. She did it. She did it, and she went to San Antonio to do it, or Bexar County, right? That's where they went for their wedding. I didn't tell her to do that. She didn't want to do it in El Paso. And she didn't want to tell the people that her brother-in-law was a shooter in the Walmart mass shooting. Because they were part of allowing this false narrative out there to target President Trump. But when you're so bold because you have people like George Smith and people like Sylvia Brune de Firth and people like Greg Abbott and people like Ted Cruz and people like Veronica Escobar and Manny Chavira and Gustavo Sanchez and Sean Bernabe and Tavita Nusa, and you've got Soto Hernandez, Marlon Soto Hernandez, that are part of this cartel infiltration that work for the El Paso cartel operative Alejandro de la Vega Foster double agent and Maru Campos, the Sinaloa proxy, the El Chapo fentanyl governor, then you get bold because they run El Paso Community Foundation and El Paso Matters, and then you have really rotten people like Bob Moore that don't mention the Mayellas while they're planning their wedding, and who knows how many of these people went to the wedding because Alexa's father was at the time the federal courthouse manager, while her brother was working for Jaime Esparza in the DA's office, and still is in the El Paso FBI field office with David Frost, with Todd Petkus, and simultaneously working cybersecurity for Walmart. And I haven't even touched on the mother and Alexis and all their medical little connections. Their medical connections, and yeah, it's just because that connects directly to Alejandro de la Vega Foster and Nadal Baim and his daughter Layla Baim Bugado, who is the wife of Richard's command, Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado in the G3 of the 32nd ATCOM. I didn't make that up. That's hard evidence. It's hard evidence. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, y'all. And I have to come on every night and put it out there. Because what's Bob Moore doing? What's Reyes Mata doing? They're just, I guess they're, yeah, they're not reporting. That's for sure. Sometimes Reyes Mata has a decent article, but I think he sold his soul. So we're going to do the reporting. And that is David Scott Frost was getting a divorce in 2021. The lead FBI agent of the Walmart mass shooting was getting a divorce. And when you looked at the divorce, you find out that he's active duty military. That he's active duty in the 1AD headquarters, division artillery, headquarters battery under Sean Bernabe. The same foul, vile, treasonous general that lied to us, lied to us, used taxpayers' money to put together Task Force Fireman Richard Halliday without an op board, to gather over 15 agencies together with so much money to do fake searches because they knew all along that Richard had been murdered because there was a seal on the door of the arms room. And they gave us Richard's private rifle and his personal items. If a person is missing or whatever they said about him, they can't legally give us his personal weapon. But they did because they knew. And Nadal Bayim knew and told us. And the Sean Bernabe, the vile, vulgar, treasonous general, said, "Oh, he's a nobody. He's a nobody. He's just a crazy dude. He's a nobody." Wouldn't even tell us who he is. And by the grace of God, we found out that he is the father-in-law of Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado in the G3 of the 32nd ATCOM. Operations, y'all. Operations. And, that's the tip of the iceberg with Nadal Baim, because he's absolutely with the warehouses, the cartels, the cars, all of that stuff. And his other daughter, Nadia, is hanky-panky in the DA's office and the federal prosecutor's office. Oh, man. It's like, really? And this is what Veronica Escobar is like. I've got to get the FBI. I know just the FBI. Connell Wet. No, I'll get David Frost. I'll get Todd Petkin. No, I'll get Michael Mayella to look into your son's case. Yeah. Connell Wetton. Yeah, we'll get the big gun. We'll get the big gun. They're so cartel. They're so compromised. They're so criminal. They're absolute traitors. And what they did to Richard, a U.S. Army soldier, is an act of war. An act of war. You don't drag a soldier out of who is under whistleblower protection. Drag him out and take his life on base in his barracks building and then dismember him and steal his body off of Fort Bliss and then traffic it through the cartel system over to Mexico and say that that's just a crime. That's not just a crime. And you know why I know it's not just a crime? Because it makes people shake. And they can't even say Richard's name. It makes people shake. And it makes them angry. How dare you, expose our trafficking network? How dare you say there is a common denominator, that this is a Mormon faction? Well, because David Frost is Mormon, and Todd Petkus is Mormon, and Connell Wetton is Mormon, and Leilani Hart is Mormon, and George Smith is Mormon. And, I didn't make that up. I didn't tell them what religion to be. But you shouldn't give favors or preferential treatment or cover up the most vile and vulgar crimes because you just happen to share the same faith. So, David Frost, not one hat in the FBI, not two hats in the military under Sean Bernabe, not just the divorce that, yeah, I put it up there. I don't have to say it. And then the family um, advocacy program, the CPS, the CIA, the CID, the FBI and the CID. Oh, Connell Wetton, you've got to investigate David Frost. Oh, Tavita Nusa, you've got to investigate David Frost. Did you hear what his wife said that he did on Fort Bliss? Oh, Sean Bernabe, one of the guys that works for you, right there. You probably have a beer with him or two. Did you hear? He's under he he admits that he's under protective order, or a protective order is submitted to keep him away from his family. Oh, by the way, he's the lead investigator for the FBI. And not only that, but he is right there with the casualty affairs officer that is sabotaging from the inside, doing his TRADOC, asymmetric warfare training on the Gold Star family to try to keep them from finding out that their son is a major whistleblower, a major, probably the major whistleblower ever, and that he's no longer alive. And they're all working together with the Mayellas, with the Nadal Baims. And then, get this, guess who's the judge over his divorce? Marlene Gonzalez. Marlene Gonzalez. Marlene Gonzalez. She's so dirty, so cartel. She's so cartel. She's so dirty. And she is the one that approved Leilani Hart to change her name when she's under investigation. You can't change your name when you have a confession to the facilitation of the worst type of crimes against children. And Marlene is just like, oh yeah, Leilani, I'm gonna protect you. You can change your name. And she's protecting David Frost and the most vile, vulgar allegations that his wife made, and what he said, what he said. I mean, his I don't know who his lawyer is, or how he got advice, but it's like, do a FOIA for it. Do a FOIA if you don't believe me. And that's why, with Richard, because of this, whoever this guy is, that, he's an operative coming on here. There is a false narrative that they put out. And the very look, you got Bill Hicks being the attorney for Purchase Funeral Homes. That is solely totally tied to Plenitude Crematorium, Narco Crematorium. So, of course, they're going to have media, and the media put out fake, false, a smear campaign on Richard. Why? Because he's the whistleblower. So they absolutely put that out there. So, how do we counter that? Cease and desist? Oh no, we uh who's going to, cuz we did do that. The story's still up there. A correction's not made on it. Richard has not only the designation of deceased, which absolutely that paperwork is like super important, super important because of everything that it reveals. But then he was redesignated, which is unheard of, for killed in the line of duty. That's how important he is. And then the president, not one, but two letters. And then all two letters and over the top, y'all, over the top from President Trump, who is, has to watch out of whatever he puts in writing because it is so scrutinized. But yet he did it. And then he has his DEA guy saying, we're going after the Sinaloa cartel. We're going in deep, going deep. We're not going to stop. We're going to get the Sinaloa. We're going to get the CJNG. The two really terroristic organizations that are right there in El Paso. They're right there in El Paso, y'all. Big as Dallas. Big as Dallas in El Paso, Texas. Yeah, you can't say what I'm saying unless you have hard evidence. And you don't have all of these connections unless they're connected through this El Paso cartel network that is in alliance with Maru Campos, the Sinaloa proxy. Because you had to have the Sinaloa cartel if you're going to pull off what they've been pulling off. Because the Sinaloa cartel is just so big. So the other major hat that Scott Petkus wears, Todd Petkus and David Frost. The other hat that David Frost wears is for Mauro Campos because he was in the Fiscalia. He was the one that told Carlos Manuel Salas, who the DA has said, look, this is a guy that is cartel operative. The DEA has confirmed that Carlos Manuel Salas is with the cartel. Okay? And he was handpicked by Maru Campos to be the prosecutor for the North Zone. Now, if that doesn't wow, right? That in itself. But then you have David Frost with Todd Petkus going over to the Fiscalia. Now, did they have office space there? Were they on the secret payroll? Because you have Maru Campos going on media saying that the agents were on her payroll. Were they David Frost? Well, we know the CIA were on there. We know that the DEA were on there. We know that the FBI was on there. Oh, what do you mean the FBI was on her payroll? She said it. I didn't say it. And her whole the people that were with her was like, "Duh, no," waving at her. She's like, "Why are they waving at me?" Because you're saying on TV that the DEA and the FBI were in Chihuahua, Mexico, and of course the CIA, and we know the ATF, and we know the DPS because they were all supposed to be on the 18th floor of her new high rise. AI, AI. You have to have the AI high rise to memorize and organize and analyze and weaponize all of this Pegasus data that it's collecting, right? Harvesting all the data from everyone's phone. And then someone's like, change.org, they're harvesting your data. They're harvesting our data, y'all. They're harvesting our data. So I better get on here every night and just give you the data because they're going to harvest it anyway. He was over there in the Fiscalia. What was he doing over there? Stopping the investigation and the search into Richard Halliday and his remains. The remains. Because they had to protect the Ariano Curon family, right? They didn't want anyone to know about the narco crematorium, flesh peddling, fraud. Can you imagine the fraud? Because you have all those bodies and you're giving families fake ashes back. So what are you doing with the bodies? You're collecting like humanitarian aid for them, and then you're recycling them, and then you're selling some, and you're harvesting organs. And I mean, they have to have fake death certificates. They have to have fake autopsies. They have. I can't even. And then they're letting all that fluid just go down the drain right into Juarez's water source. These are very, very evil, polluting in so many ways. So many ways they are polluting our society and our land and everything. And they protected. Look, they even bribed the judge to get Jose Luis, let go. And now, they're working very hard. I guess they're working very hard. They're working so hard to get the red notice for Interpol, right? Where's the red pole? They got Richards up there with a fake picture, the yellow notice, because they couldn't do anything else because they knew that he was deceased. Because if their narrative was right, it would have been a red Interpol, but it wasn't. See, the paperwork trail, everything tells the true story. They lie, their lips lie, they give fake narratives, they can whitewash, you know. Um, they've whitewashed uh, so much of what they did, but we have it. We have it. We saved it. So, and we have to get it out there. So, this whole thing with David Frost and the allegations against him in his divorce, yes, they are vile, vulgar. It's disgusting. I can't even tell you everything, right? But the conflicts of interest, it's so illegal. You can't change it that he was FBI and active duty at the same time, and that he was in the Fiscalia, and that he botched the Walmart case, that he tampered and obstructed justice in our son's case. while he is right there in the headquarters battery under Sean Bernabe with Joshua Lyons, the asymmetric warfare bad guy. It's just, I know there's so many tentacles, and that's why I say it every night, every night. And if you just keep coming on and listen and listen and listen, it will all come together, and you will see that this is an El Paso cartel network that is in alliance with the Sinaloa cartel, that's in alliance with the CJNG. That's why CJNG La Diabla had her network right there with the funeral fraud, with the Plenitude Crematorium, harvesting organs, targeting pregnant women, harvesting their babies, giving them cheap C sections by 16-year-olds using kitchen utensils. I'm not joking. That's in the report that Tulsi Gabbard released. I didn't make that up. And Beto O'Rourke employed La Diabla's family along with Justin Underwood's wife. Okay? Justin Underwood's wife. They were all Beto O'Rourke people. Danae Katz and Beto O'Rourke people, and of course, Mormon. This Mormon faction is all the way through. And it doesn't give me any pleasure to say that, but I'm just saying they felt like, for some reason, I don't know, that they could, whatever kind of relationship they had with each other, that could supersede our national sovereignty, be it in the United States or be it in Mexico. So, okay, everyone, I know that was pretty volatile tonight, because it's been a pretty volatile day. And I just appreciate everyone sharing everything. Oh yeah, I didn't even talk about the Antifa getting 50. The ringleader got 100 years. The rest of them got 50 years. Um, and think about Veronica Escobar's. What was his man's name? Oh my gosh, I have to look it up. Who was impersonating a lawyer to bring contraband into the ice, and he is the one, and how can I forget his name? Um, but he, maybe it's because it's almost 2 o'clock in the morning, but he is the one that denied us for Veronica Escobar our congressional, which would make everybody happy, right? Because a congressional would get everything out on the table and people wouldn't say, oh no, Richard's not a whistleblower. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. They're shaking. Oh, they're sending in Ray Velarde. they're they're getting David Frost to go over to the Fiscalia and say, "Don't we can't have another Vanessa Guillen. Do not reveal his body. Do not find his remains. Do not return a U.S. Army soldier's tampered, dismembered body to their family in the United States." It's such an act of war. It's so revealing. It's so revealing. And explain Mayella, and explain Nadal Babe, and explain David Frost, and explain this new guy, George Smith. So I'm wondering, and by the way, this guy, gosh, and I need to really look him up. This guy that went in to the ice, I think, multiple times, many times, um, trying to bring contraband. He wanted to make the ICE facility like an headquarters operating, for the Antifa, right? For the cartel. Yeah, so this is really good news. And the people that were doing all of this is all laying down the foundation and the framework for the epicenter, which is El Paso and which is Richard Halliday's case, because it's intertwined with the Walmart mass shooting case that targeted President Trump to sabotage the 2020 election. So, that when you understand that, and everything falls into place why they were doing what they were doing. So, because they didn't want gas to be cheap. Look at what they're doing now. Gas should be what, at about $2.20 a gallon, and they're keeping it up, right? They're price gouging. They're price gouging. Obviously, they're price gouging because if crude oil is at $70 a barrel, when it was $70 a barrel before, gas was around $2.20 a gallon, maybe $2 a gallon. But now they want to keep it up. They're price gouging because they are against the people. They don't want a president that is for the people. They are they are terroristic organizations. That's what they are. And El Paso, of course, they know all about that. They know all about that. So, thank you so much, everybody. I could go on and on and on. And I just appreciate all of you coming on so late. And please sign the petition to have a full review of Richard's file. We're so confident of our son's record that we believe that he should be awarded uh, medals. Medals. He should be awarded. He should be honored. And that petition, we need a lot of signatures. So please help us get a lot of signatures. It's not so easy sometimes signing it. I've had people call me and let me know. But please keep on trying. You don't have to give any money. We're not asking for any money at all. But I think that change.org does ask for money donations, but it's not for us. Okay. It's not for us. That's up to you. And just please, if you haven't signed it, please sign it, because can you imagine Richard being posthumously awarded these medals? That would end the debate about his record, and it would absolutely honor him. Absolutely. So thank you so much. God bless you, and I will be back tomorrow.